It's time to talk about those new look Dallas Mavericks.
Can I give a shout out real quick?
Sure.
Was it Cody who was at the Las Vegas airport who said he's a Tolo and listens to us?
Yes.
Cody, right?
Yep.
Shout out to Cody because he asked this question, what do you think of the Mavs before they played this game? And what was my answer?
We're going to kick all the ass because Dwight Powell isn't going to play.
I said championship, and you guys are like, oh, God. But
I mean, I would still probably stand firm with that line after one game.
I
I'm pretty
high-fived
sure
and
I
said championship.
I'm pretty sure I said we're never losing again. So, like, that was mine too. But, yeah, and so far, we haven't.
All right. So, anyway, shout out to Cody Tolo, who was in the Las Vegas airport. And, you know, we got back home. He did, too, as far as we know.
Yeah, I don't
gosh.
really know.
I will just throw out real quick for people that were asking is the Mavericks did not get Spencer Dinwiddie as he did sign with the Lakers. However,
Fine.
Okay, agreed. You look at that game against the Thunder, and we'll preface all this by saying it's one game.
Against the Thunder.
Against the Thunder.
In the NBA.
Who are very good.
Regular season where nobody cares about regular season games.
I mean, it feels like the Thunder have cared a lot this year, but I hear what you're saying.
All right.
Is this team looked fantastic. It looked more complete in terms of what you wanted to see in the front court, and you're still dealing with some injuries, and it just can't help. But, I mean, and I know Brada said this, I don't know, a week or so ago, is this team has just had so many injuries. It's tough to, like, really think about what they're going to look like. But making these two moves help hit a couple of their deficiencies.
Man, it was one game. And I have to remind myself it's one game. I was actually talking to Taylor Hearn, who's in Japan right now, getting ready for his season in Japan, if you didn't know that. So congratulations to him on his contract there and everything. But he was asking me questions about the Mavs. And I said, Taylor, it's only one game. But that one game looked really impressive against a team that you might have to play in the first round.
Okay, let me ask you a question real quick about that, because obviously we talked about this a lot with Gafford. What I'm immediately going to go to is what was most impressive to me was them on the board.
Yes.
Was there a specific element, whether it was that or something else, that you thought looked most impressive on Saturday?
The Mavericks were more physical. They were attacking the boards more, and all it took was, I don't want to say one guy, because PJ Washington's a very strong and physical guy too, and
Maxi Kleber looked really good in that game too. They got standing ovations when they checked in. So I was watching the game from the start, and it was like a standing ovation. They both check in at the same time. I'm going to assume about 4 minutes or 5 minutes to go in the first quarter, something like that, and they get a standing ovation, and their energy and their physicality is just something the Mavs don't have. The Mavs are one of the least physical teams in all of the NBA. So to add two guys that are athletic, can run the court well, they have more to their game than just like a kind of a one-trick pony, and nothing against other guys, but sometimes the Mavericks have been used to, I'll take Dorian Finney-Smith, for example. I really like Dorian Finney-Smith. I would have liked if he would have come back to the Mavs. But we know that Dorian Finney-Smith can't dribble or pass. He just can catch and shoot, and then he plays defense. That's good. But these guys have the ability to get the ball and dribble it and score with people on them. And then you're watching them rip down rebounds and say, no, our possession isn't over just because we missed. I'll get an offensive rebound and we can reset it. That's what happens 15 times a game against the Mavericks, and now it's like, it ain't going to happen 15 times a game. It'll happen. Other teams will get an offensive rebound here and there, but now you're like, wait a second. Gafford and PJ Washington are going to slow down the other team's ability to be like, we're stronger than you, we're more physical than you, we might be more athletic than you. You're like, nope, no, we're not.
Gafford and PJ Washington combined for his one less offensive rebound than the rest of the team combined. So they had 5, and the rest of the team had 6 total. And Gafford had 4 offensive rebounds on his own. So Mike's, dead on. Like, now Luka gets another crack at it. Kyrie gets another crack at it to put points in. And that's a huge factor. It just seemed like Gafford was everywhere on the court whenever, even if he missed a rotation, and they're still having to learn their rotations, he was flying to a three-point shooter. PJ Washington, I still think he has a lot more to grow in. But whenever it comes down to, oh, man, Lively's out tonight. Where are we going to get that production? They would probably go, I guess we got to go to Timmy tonight. And now they can go elsewhere other than Timmy. You can go to PJ. You can also go to Gafford for points. And I think the other thing, too, is Gafford can get points on his own just by being around and underneath the basket. He can go back up.
He can get trash points sometimes where he just grabs an offensive rebound or just gives a tip back or a put back.
Yes,
But you mean trash points in the positive perspective?
Yeah. Sorry.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is that we're never going to post him up.
Yeah.
We're not going to run plays for Gafford. And the play you will run is obviously a pick and roll where he rolls to the basket for an alley-oop. But it'll be interesting because even in Dwight Powell's good year, and that was the year you went to the conference finals, as soon as the playoffs started, you're like, I remember asking the old Phoenix Suns general manager, we've had him on a few times. McDonough. I'm like, hey, how come Dwight Powell was getting 10 points a game in March and April so easily, and then the playoffs start and it's like 0 points, 0 rebounds? Like, it's one of the easiest plays to stop, especially Dwight Powell. Like, he's an easy person to stop. You can allow it in the regular season, but you're like, yeah, it's Dwight Powell. We can shut this down in a second. I'm wondering, and I don't know this, when Gafford and Derek Lively set the pick and they roll to the basket, is it going to be that easy to shut down? I don't know, because they can jump higher. They can actually catch a ball and maybe put the ball.
They're longer, yeah.
You don't want Derek Lively to put the ball on the floor yet, but you could see Gafford. He can put the ball on the floor for one dribble and then make a spin move and do something. But so I'm like, this is different. It's one game, so I need to see it. I was telling Taylor Hearn, I need to see this for like 10 more games to see, is this real? What I saw Saturday afternoon, is this real? Because if that's real, they can make it back to a conference finals. I'm not predicting that yet. Let's see how this month of February plays out with this team.
Yeah,
that was different.
Yeah, and to what you just said, Luka and Kyrie can get them to the conference finals, but you have to have all the rest of the pieces there too, and that's what it looks like right now. You said off air this morning, is it enough time to get the chemistry where it needs to be for something like that to happen? And I stand by this. I think because of the enthusiasm from both Gafford and PJ Washington of their situation, they are somewhere where they have a chance. They are somewhere where they want to make this work. They didn't just get thrown into this situation. And by the way, if you heard Gafford in the presser, like, he's got charisma, he can talk. I loved it. I'm really excited to hear more from him as we go along. But they are enthusiastic about trying to make this work and being part of it.
Yeah.
So that's what I think will speed up the process. If you have resistance, that's going to be problematic. But you have two guys that seem to really want to be part of a winning situation.
And they've both been part of just completely losers,
awful,
right? I mean, they don't even compete for playoff spots for the most part in their career. So this is different. The Mavericks are right now the 8th seed. They have 29 games left. So, Corey, that's what I just wonder. You just see so many times it's very tough to make a midseason trade and for it to impact you completely. It's usually like the next year where you see it come together. You have an off season. It will be up to Jason Kidd. It will be up to his coaching staff to figure out how quick can we mesh this, because you're limited in practice, because you're like, hey, Luka's playing 40 minutes a night. That's not going to stop.
Right.
See, how much do you want him practicing? Mm-hmm. And then Kyrie has injury problems throughout his career, and he's having injury problems again this year. So out of these 29 games left, I'm expecting Kyrie to play in 20 of them. Like, I hope he plays in more of them, but if he plays in 20 of them and Luka plays in, let's say, 26 of them.
Is that the threshold minimum to really feel like you've got a cohesive unit going into the playoffs? That 20 games?
That would be a minimum, right? Because even like Nico, early on in the year, he was getting interviewed and he said, look, and every person says the same thing. I'm just repeating Nico because he's our general manager now. He says, give me 20 games. After 20 games, I'll have an idea of what we lack and what we need and what we are good at. Well, this gives Nico, like, there's not
He saw it very defined and said we'd got to do it, because we all saw it too. We all saw exactly what they needed.
And thank God Nico's watching, because I'm going to give Nico a lot of credit. This is a different – Mark Cuban never ran a franchise like this with himself running the franchise. You're like, wait, why are we adding 35-year-olds to Luka when he's 21 years old? Like, these guys aren't going to be around to really – create something. And so I think Nico sees it as, I do have a superstar who's 24 years old, almost 25. Why don't I try to add guys that are going to be around this league for 5 more years in a prime, rather than adding guys that might be able to help for a second or two? And so the thing is, they have to get out of the 8th seed. somehow, some way for this to maybe make a run, and I know you have to have the right matchups in the playoffs, and maybe you get the wrong matchup in the first round, even if you get out of the play-in situation. But I don't know how big of a run. I know the Lakers did it. I don't feel like you can make a big run being a play-in team.
And that's not a hard ask at all.
They can get to 5 pretty quick, I think.
Yeah, you can. You're a game back of 5. Now, I realize, as you would guess, from 5 to 8, there are multiple teams in the way. Yeah. But then you look at tonight, like you have an easy opponent. If you lose this game, well, hell, we'll have a completely different segment.
They have 9
tomorrow.
wins.
This is the kind of night where you just sit everybody, though, right? Is what you're saying?
No, look. We need to win this game and continue your forward momentum because they've won 4 in a row. And all of a sudden, maybe you don't immediately take the 5 seed, but if you can jump over Sacramento or New Orleans, or at the very worst, continue to create separation with the Lakers and the Warriors, that's what you need to do.
100%. And so I think they can. Now, the thing is to your point, Kyrie probably has to play more than 20 of 29 games. If you're gonna get the 5 seed, and I know, yes, you're just a game back, but it's Phoenix, New Orleans, and Sacramento are barely ahead of you, and you're so far behind Denver and Oklahoma City. I think that would be really tough to get to 4 or 3. You'd probably, at this point, you have 23 losses. You're probably looking at, with 29 games to go, you could lose 6 more games and maybe get the 4 seed. So that's 23 and 6 the rest of the way to get the 4 seed.
You're right mathematically. I do not see currently a viable path to get into the top 4. Like you're right, you could, but I think it's number 5 or bust.
And I understand you need Kyrie feeling healthy going into the playoffs. So you do have to watch how much he plays on back-to-back games and 3 out of 4s and stuff like that. He has had a lot of rest already this season, missing games. I know they were real injuries. They're not fake. But if you want to get that 5 seed, I just wonder how much you have to push Kyrie and Luka to, like Pippen, play in all the games.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking at their schedule.
It's an easier schedule.
The matchup at the end of the game, I believe, will decide whether or not the Mavericks get into the 4 seed.
You mean the matchup at the end of the season?
The matchup at the end of the game.
Because if we're deciding it at the end of the game tonight, I'm going to be like, well, never mind.
Mavericks play the Thunder, and I feel the Thunder will slip into the 4 spot, and the Mavericks will have their opportunity to steal it. The 2 things, Mike, that I noticed.
I'm wondering when Derek Lively's coming back, too, real quick. Like, was he on the bench? Like, is his face, like, super swollen?
I have not seen his face, whether or not it's swollen, but
I want that as a drop.
There are 2 things that just like spirit was a big deal. You saw Luka make a play with Gafford, and he was excited. Like you saw oh my gosh, I got something to work with. We have something to work with. I think it injected some enthusiasm, excitement into the club itself, where they were just like, I don't even know if I want to play tonight most nights. And now they're probably down this stretch going to be like, let's go, man, let's go get something, let's hunt it. And then on the other side, Oklahoma City just throughout the end of that game looked stoned, dude. They looked like they got knocked out, knocked around, and beat up, and had no answer to a team that like the Mavericks. They're like, man, we got to deal with them by the end of the year.
I promise you this. I think the top 4 or 5 teams, if you want to include it, Minnesota, Clippers, Oak City, Denver, and Phoenix, they didn't see Dallas as a threat at all. If they had to play them in the playoffs, they're like, this is great. Like, they played no defense. We're going to score 130-something points a game. So as long as they don't shoot 45% from 3, we're going to beat the Mavericks almost every game. And now let's see this momentum that they just created, because Oklahoma City had to at least look at that and go, oh, crap. So matching up with Dallas in the playoffs might be an issue. Let's see how Dallas plays the rest of the way. Oklahoma City's having a great regular season, but if the Mavericks can keep playing this way, and especially when they do play again a team like, I don't know their schedule, but a Phoenix, a Denver, and if they beat those teams.
Oh, if they beat Denver.
Right, then all of a sudden, I think teams are going to start looking ahead of the Mavericks and going, the Mavs can't catch us record-wise, but crap, we don't want to match up with this Maverick team.
Yes, agreed.